Welcome to She Been Ready, the podcast. She Been Ready is a conversation, a declaration, and a clarification that Black women have always led. On this podcast, I, Dr. Wendy Williams, educator, psychologist, leader, and auntie, will be joined by Black women who lead and those who have been led well by them. So, you don't have to get ready when you stay ready. And you can trust in the leadership of a Black woman because she been ready. All right, so welcome back, everyone, to She Been Ready, the podcast. Y'all have no idea how thrilled and excited I am to have my dear sister friend, Malesha Taylor. Well, actually, Malesha, what's your last name now?
Taylor Browning.
Taylor Browning.
Yes.
So there have been some developments in her life.
Yes.
She's a dear. Just we met in Brooklyn in a beautiful time, and
Yes.
what she's doing in the world now is so magnificent. So I'm just so happy to have you, Malesha, with us today.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you again, always.
You too.
Yes.
So I'm just going to start us off as we typically do, which is to ask you, how did you know that you've been ready to lead? This podcast is She Been Ready, looking at women, Black women in particularly in our liberatory leadership praxis. And I want to know, and that is, I find that Black women lead with liberation at heart all the time. So for me, these conversations are around learning how you do that from your seat and from where your positionality in the world. What was the work you were doing or engaging in that made you realize that you needed to be at the helm or that you had a leadership role to play? And how old were you? And I ask this question because sometimes we're older, sometimes we're really, really young. And, as Black women, we could be told that perhaps we should or shouldn't be leading, but you either leading or you're not. And it doesn't really matter. So the stage of your career or of your life, that can be really helpful for people to hear about. But how did you know that you've been ready?
Yes. Wow. While you were asking that question, I went through some significant phases. First of all, my mother said when I came out of the womb, I was singing.
No.
She said I was singing early. She said I sang immediately when I was born. And I sang all the time. And she said I scared her because I sounded like a grown person as a baby
Does she
singing.
have any recordings of that?
I don't think so.
That's
No.
miraculous.
Yeah, she just was like, my child was born knowing she had a voice and knowing she was singing. And she also said I was born with this kind of spiritual seer as like part of my character. I just could see that I was supposed to be here and I could see what I was supposed to be about. And so I feel like knowing that and that my mother told me that, that makes me feel like anytime I show up in any space, I am intentional. I'm supposed to be there. And I am leading when I show up as my full self. When I bring my full self to a space, I am leading. So that also, along with, I was thinking about Muse Salon. Muse Salon, I thought of when we were friends back in Brooklyn.
I remember.
Muse Salon was like, oh, getting together, gathering. Brooklyn, we were doing that. We were gathering in homes. And now that feels like some kind of special event to go to someone's house and eat. Right?
After the pandemic, it really became a thing.
It's like a special event that you have to curate and make sure there's a calendar link and a form. You can't just call and text.
Yep. Or meet at Breadstuy and say, "Come through."
Right, come through or pass through.
Yeah.
And Muse Salon was something I could tell needed to keep happening, that it didn't need to be something that was just in Brooklyn or just in that time, but all the time, and how significant gathering is for our development as leaders and people. And so I did not incorporate Muse Salon until I became a mother. And then motherhood taught me I've been ready. And then the pandemic gave me another knowing because I made it a 501c3. So those were all my knowings. Birth, the pronunciate, the proclamation that my mother made that I was born knowing what I was supposed to do. And also the coming into myself in Brooklyn. I was in my late 20s, so I was 28, 29, not quite 30 yet, was when I started to realize I should lead. And then I started to take it serious, but like incorporate and make it an entity. I didn't do that until I was a mother. So I was 32. And then I made it a 501c3 right before 40. So I was about 38, 39.
So I don't even know why I write interview questions. Because what I want to ask you is sort of like really thinking about what you just said there. Like there are these major transformations in life that at birth, your voice, before you have words, you have that voice. And it sounds like to your mother, at least it was old.
Right.
I really wish we like had a monograph or something we could hear that.
Right.
Becoming a mother.
Yes.
And I, we have an episode here on mothering as leadership.
Yes.
Yes, because it is. I wanted my sister to do it with me, but she is like, you are the only one who wants to put that big old microphone in your face and talk to people. I don't want to do that, but I did get a friend of mine to do it with me. But what motherhood teaches us about leadership and what's called of us, I feel like that's a thing. And so I would love if you might speak to that. And then 40 and the 501c3 and taking yourself seriously. Like, I just think that you're speaking about trajectory in terms of coming into life, but coming into the hood of woman. And I would love if you could talk about that and your leadership.
Yes.
What that inspires for you, even that question.
Yes. Ooh. So yes.
I know. I was like, I don't even know why we ask questions, because we get other questions in the midst of it all, right?
Yes. Mom becoming mother with the capital M is I have to know myself loud enough to explain it and proclaim it to my children. Loud, not in my diary anymore, not a conversation inside my head. I have to write it, speak it, dictate it out now, because I have to teach my children how to be, how to become, how to show up, what they're talented at, what they're gifted at, how to know what a gift is, how to feel yourself and show yourself. If I can't do it, then I can't teach it. That's how I felt. There's a moment of reckoning where you're like, I can't be crippled because I have to lift 3 children on my back.
I can't be crippled. What do you mean by that?
Crippled, like I can't be walking fragmented through life, not knowing who I am.
I need my whole self here.
I need my whole self fully. I need all of my members, my physical limbs to be membered.
Yes.
I need my spine straight, because I'm about to put a whole human on my back, and 3
of them. You have twins, and then is the third older or younger than the twins?
The third's younger.
Oh, yoy.
So my last baby is now 8.
Oh. That's such a beautiful, smart alecky age. It's so
yes. I love 8. I love 8. I'm like, stay 8. But I've said stay everything that he's ever been. Because I loved him at 3 and 4.
You love him forever.
Yes.
You said motherhood with a capital M. What does that mean to you? It sounds like that's something you said before in your past.
Yeah. Mother authority. I feel like it's a position Sometimes we feel like motherhood happens to us, or we don't have agency in motherhood. Sometimes, sometimes we feel like this happened, or I wasn't sure, or this is not necessarily what I want. Like, we have different vibes about motherhood sometimes. And I had to get to a place of anchoring in and saying, I am sure that I'm a mother, and I'm sure about my role in motherhood. I'm sure about my voice as a mother. I am sure that I'm worthy of being a mother. That it's not an accident I'm a mother. That this didn't happen to me. This is my body. My body is real. My body tells me that I'm having a child, and that's real. That's
real.
not, it's not happening at me or to me. It's kind of like it's like matriarchy, you know, and it's authority to me. It's it's a role, it's a position of authority.
That's why I see motherhood as leadership. My baby sister is the mother of 4 girls, and I've watched her become a more fuller authority. I love that language. In her motherhood, it's the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. I watched her grow up from baby to mom. Yes. And you're right. There is a decision, and it doesn't always come just because the baby came. Like, a lot of times what I've noticed with my sisters, it came as they were just like, you gonna teach me some stuff because I had to learn some things, and she had to, I got to get myself together,
Yes.
It's I've never seen a much more powerful expression of her voice, in her own voice and in her own way. But certainly it's the most beautiful thing I've ever been allowed to bear witness to closely. I think it happens as sisters and siblings, for sure. Yes. And so it's lovely to hear you say it in these words that really, really resonate. The beauty of it, truly.
Yes. Yes.
You're smiling.
It's a blooming. It's like a coming into full bloom of the flower. And it doesn't mean that I think there are many aspects of the feminine. A mother is one. So it doesn't mean that not being a physical, biological mother does not mean you do not mother. Whatever you find to mother is motherhood, and it's an authority.
It's owning your authority. Yeah. No, I have no children, right? And so I love that you're saying that as well, because I think that sometimes when women talk about mothering, the non-mothers, the aunties of the world, may feel a certain way, like, well, I get to be a woman. It's like, nobody's saying that. Right. We're talking about this over here. Stay focused, right? Like, let's just stay on what we're talking about. Yes. And this is a unique way of thinking and a perspective on thinking about the flowering of womanhood, of matriarchal authority, which is so imbalanced in our society. So I really appreciate you naming that. And we can talk about the birthing of children and motherhood, singularity, right now, and let that be the focus. And we will have another conversation on this podcast with other types of mothering as leadership. Right. Love. Right. So 25 years, nobody would look at you to think that you've been anywhere for 25 years. But you have had a career in the arts that spans a quarter of a century. Right. I'm not trying to age.
That's a trip.
It's a trip. When I look up and see those kinds of numbers, I'm like, really, God, what are we doing? What's your story? Like, how did you come to know yourself as an artist? Yourself, it sounds like you know, leadership, I hear it, but when you decided, have you always known that? How did you know?
It's like, I remember being in 3rd grade choir, like the choir that you're forced to be in elementary school, and all the kids have to line up and sing a song because it's the last day of school program. And I remember pushing my way to the edge of the choir to pull on the teacher, like, I can really sing though. Like, I could.
You were like, this is fine.
I don't know about
what we can really do with this is a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
What'd your teacher
And
say?
I always did that in every music program. I was at church, I was like, no, but I can sing. So, I mean, I was 8, so I give myself a pass. But I was like, I can sing. I can sing in harmony. I can sing high. I can sing low. I can do anything you need for this choir. I can do the solo, the backup, the light up. I can get people in line. And it was just I could just tell that it was something that drove my personality. It made me shine. It made me show up and stand out, was being an artist. Um, and it was deep inside me. My mom said I was born singing. My mom is also a singer, and my mom's dad was a singer. So my maternal line is full of singing.
Oh, see.
Yes, yes.
I see.
And so to expand on the arts, I showed up as an artist, as a singer. I studied at Cal State Fullerton and USC. I studied voice. I knew that voice was the way that I wanted to go as far as academic study. But while I was in music school, I had the opportunity to do an internship because I was starting to think about how to earn money like a normal person. If I don't want to be a movie star or a singing actress on Broadway, what else is there to do? And I did an internship at the Symphony, which I didn't even know had an office. And they said, oh yeah, you can intern at the Symphony, work in an administrative office, learn about production, learn about concert management, learn about development and fundraising. And so I got into that at around my junior year of college. And I started to learn the other side of music making, which is music administration, music business, and production. And once I learned that there were full administrative offices running all of these stages and all of these performances, I started to learn that other side. And I wanted to know it because I didn't feel that just being a singer was enough. I wanted to know the ins and outs of what makes the music business and what makes a great production. So I learned how to be a techie, how to work backstage, how to be a stage manager. I learned how to do grants and grant writing. I learned how to be a receptionist. I learned how to be a producer. I self-taught. I showed up and self-taught. I listened and I paid attention. I did not get a second degree in arts administration. I did not go get an MBA. I did not go into nonprofit arts administration. I just did the jobs. I did all the little entry level jobs.
What was happening? It sound, was that odd or different compared to what was going on with your classmates in terms like were they like thrust into the right? And so I wonder what was happening for young Malesha in school and what made her so entrepreneurial so early.
I was thinking about everyone telling me, do you have a plan B? Do you have a plan B? Everyone was like, you're cute, you can sing. Do you have a plan B? Because not everybody cute.
You're more than cute. You're beautiful.
Thank you.
And I'm offended, but I'm also glad that they pushed you.
Right.
Right. Because then you entered into this space with a sense of confidence that you could do other things, less desperate, less willing to sell yourself out, less willing to sell out your voice.
Yes.
The actual vocal, but also like your voice, what's true for you. Did you feel that as a young person or?
Yes.
You did feel that.
Yes, I felt exactly what you said. I felt like I needed to be fully equipped for all the shenanigans, for toxic environments, and know how to pivot. To know other aspects of the career and not be stuck in one, to not be stuck in a silo and say, well, I only know how to sing, so I don't know how to do mics. I only know how to sing, so I don't know how to write contracts. You better know how to do do you know how to negotiate a contract? What is a contract supposed to look like? And just not being codependent. Because artists, honestly, in the financial aspect, the artist is kind of the last person to get paid
Right.
Like it's the
Right.
glamorous, that's the glamorous one.
You get all
But
the
that's,
attention, but you're not.
you ain't at the table.
Little
You,
disclosure.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You're not at the table. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're not at the table. You're not the decision maker. You're not
Mhm.
usually the person in power. And
Mhm.
so I started analyzing power and access to power in art. Who has the
Mm.
narrative? Who has
Mm.
the control? Who
Mm.
decides what artists get to sing? Who decides how they get to look? Okay, let me study that job. Okay, so
Mm.
who decided the staging? I want to learn that job. Who decided how these
Mm.
contracts are written? I'm learning that. Who wrote
Mm.
these grants? Who funded this building where the performance
Mm.
happened? Okay, I want to know about funding. I want to know about philanthropy. Okay, so who
Mhm.
decided how money gets dispersed? Okay, so I want to
Mm.
know about business development.
Mm.
I just kept trying to follow the needle of power and access to power and who was
Mm.
getting left out in the process. That became really curious to me, knowing that artists are often at the end of the totem pole.
Last.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you were doing this as a young woman, and I know that smart young women, particularly smart young women of color, irritate people in power.
Yes.
Smart young women of color with questions and perspectives and an opinion and an impression. How did that happen? How did you experience it? How did others experience you? Did it ever interfere with opportunity or experiences? Asking too much, not just being cute and
Yes.
singing, but like having the brain and the business acumen to actually manage many facets. Tell
Always.
me about your leadership journey. Yes, this is the leadership journey, right? This is that part.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
Right. Because that's, yes, it's the reveal. It's the grand reveal, right? I'm sorry,
Yes.
I couldn't just show up to rehearsal and not think about why the union is not protecting all
Right.
the why are we not unionized in this rehearsal? I'm sorry that I didn't show up. Like, yes, I had those questions. And the more
Yeah.
I realized, and I kept
Mm-hmm.
talking to myself, like, Malesha, you have to just be still. You can't show up always asking questions, always instigating, always challenging, because you'll be marked as you're difficult. I would get less work as a result.
Mm-hmm.
People
Mm-hmm.
would put me on, people would say, okay, you're not an artist, you're an activist. And that, okay, so you're an equity person. Okay, so and they would
Mm-hmm.
start creating labels to put me into certain spots.
Boxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's what led me to liberation and liberatory
Mm-hmm.
praxis, because it was about, I need to define what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I challenge something does not mean that I'm not still an artist.
That's right.
Um, just because I have ideas does not mean that I'm supposed to follow and never lead. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and leading is not bad.
Mm.
Leadership is not negative. Having a business and being an artist, being a multi hyphenated person should not be bad.
Mm-hmm. It's not. Mm. Beyonce popularized it in some ways. Michael
Yes.
Jackson in some ways, right? Diana
Mhm.
Ross in some ways, Quincy Jones in some ways. So we have these models, but they seem like the few and far between. Obviously, some things have changed in the industry that make it possible for others to do it. So I was going to say, little disclosure, I love that show on HBO Max called Rap Shit, because it brings you inside of the music industry. It brings you inside of a lot of things, but inside of the music industry and young women navigating that space, a smart young woman and another young woman who is smart but isn't smart in the traditional ways, in book learned, if you will, and
Right.
how they're navigating that, and that idea of being just the talent or having the business acumen to actually navigate and negotiate from any seat that you're in, even when you're on stage too.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
And then the academic space was a trip because I went through that for a
Yes.
little bit. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all the warnings from every direction from the gate. They were like, oh, Black woman academia, FYI. Read this book. Are you prepared?
Are you prepared?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were like, do you understand?
Mm.
Do you have questions? do you want to talk now? I was like, no, I'm just adjunct. I'm just adjunct. I am
They're like, no, save yourself.
Yeah, they were like, do you want to leave yet?
Yeah.
So I just kept it very light in academia. I just did adjunct. I never made it to part-time. I just did adjunct. Yeah.
I peep in, I peep out. I don't have to be a part of your internal dynamics and politics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you peeped over into this space, and I would love to talk with you much more about it. You're the only person that uses similar language as I have started to use around talking about leadership and praxis, and that you describe it as Black liberatory praxis in vocal arts.
Yes.
What is that?
So I started to learn about what autoethnography was as a research method. I was dating a scholar at the time who was getting a PhD writing an autoethnography.
Okay.
And his dissertation was an autoethnography.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, so you mean you can, right. I was like, so I could write about myself and my process as research on a topic. Okay. So let me bring all the dynamics and complexities of who I am, all my identities, my intersections, and explore it from a Black liberatory lens, because I am Black, but I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm an artist who sings in multiple genres, who transcends genre, who doesn't believe that genre is the definer of who you are as an artist. And I started reading Black feminist thought on, do you know the book Feel-In?
No.
Who is that?
There are very few books I don't know. I appreciate it. Feel-In?
Feel-In with an apostrophe, no G. This scholar sister is major, and her mind is slipping me right now. She has an entire chapter on Black women's vocal arts expression and its relation to Black feminist thought, and how basically the sacred work of singing as a Black woman is transcendent, is spiritual, it's out of body, it's magic, and its potency is unmatched to any other phenomenon in the world.
Bettina Judd?
Yes.
I'm going to get it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And she talks about the phenomenon of what happens to us as humans when we witness a Black woman just singing, period. Just a Black woman singing.
There is this post on Instagram. If I find it, I'll send it to you. And it is basically that. It's Whitney Houston, Shaka Khan, Patti LaBelle.
Yes.
It's these you've seen it, haven't you? These artists singing and witnessing each other. Like, it stops you cold.
Yes.
Nina's, did I say Nina Simone? There, just
right.
With Beyonce, when she's actually singing in that with her full range, which is powerful. It is deeply spiritual. It does move you deeply.
In a different way that she was like, I'm gonna write a whole book called The Feeling. The what is that?
You get. I'm gonna buy this book.
Okay. I mean, it's academic work. It's intellectual. Like, we can go intellectual deep on what is that feeling.
Yes.
What has come over me when a Black woman is singing, and when she's singing full throat, body, soul. And there's no genre. There's no, this is opera, this is this. It's not, there's nothing. It's just her being free and her whole heart open.
Why is, you get excited. What is it about a Black woman who actually allows her whole heart to be open in front of us that is shocking? And why is that so beautiful? I know why. I'm asking you, though. Stop shaking your head. What do you think it is about it? Because you live in this space. You see it all the time. You see it. I see it when I saw you. Remember, you had that one installation. I think you were singing in subway stations. Remember that? And
yeah.
What do you think it is about? Tell me. What do you think?
It just reminds me of Ashe. Ashe, life force energy in the raw organic form from the first woman. And that's what it is. It's all of us remembering and saying,
Mommy.
it's saying that's the womb.
That's the womb. You see this connection to your leadership story?
Yes.
That's beautiful, Malesha. I'm getting a little emotional, but that's really beautiful.
It's the reminder of I know where I came from.
And then when I sing it wholeheartedly, my heart fully out and no unobscured by anything, shame, whatever, I'm calling back our first mother, our mother,
Yes.
our collective mother with a capital M.
And everyone, no matter any hue or where they're from, they can't deny that deep wail in the soul that says, yes, I hear it.
You can't deny it.
It's undenied. And we have that.
We
have that. We have that gold magic. We have the gold magic of that. And the voice. So my husband tripped me out because at 1 a.m. he said, the human voice is the closest access to the soul. The human. I know. I was like, actually, wait. Yeah. Listen, do you know that he said it's so dope? I said, I'm emailing that to myself. And I'm quoting you because I won't remember it unless I email it. So let me find it because I said, he worded it.
That is so soulful.
He said, I don't think there is anything that connects our bodies more to the soul than the voice. Because we walk often dismembered.
Yes.
Or not knowing we have the soul. And the voice reminds us, this is my soul.
My soul to keep.
Here it is.
Here it is.
The voice says, here is the soul, the human voice. And so that's in my autoethnography. It talks about the power of Black women free and the power of the human voice all combined to be this transcendent experience.
You're writing that now.
I'm writing that now. It's like a day. It's a work in progress because it kind of can't end unless I'm gone. And then it kind of never ends. Right. It just
do part 1 so I can read
it. Volume 1.
Do volume 1.
And then someone will add to volume 2, I'm sure.
So Black liberatory praxis in the vocal arts is accessing what? How does an artist know that they've accessed that level of praxis?
It's kind of like when we talk about the zone. When you have lost track of time and space, you have stepped out of the body and you've stepped into a spiritual experience. And even Bettina talks about what is ecstasy, the ecstatic. It's the ecstatic. It's the shout. It's the woof. It's that stuff. It's the chills stuff. The things that are phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. Phenomenons. So that's the title is Transcending Performance. So it's about coming out of I am a performer and I am a conduit.
Letting it come through you.
Letting it come through you.
I'm sure that other people will ask you this. I want to ask you it too. This is a podcast on Black women's leadership. And I know that there is someone who is not Black who is going to ask you, can they access that?
Right.
And now, what's your response to that?
Yes. Because the soul is in every human, if we believe in the soul.
Yes.
The soul is in every human. Now, my husband, who is not Black, said the second quote in the same hour. He said, if there is any place on this earth that gets the soul connected to the body, it's in Africa. Because that's where they have the connection to dance and voice simultaneously. That is what that connection is there.
Yeah.
It's just, you just wake up and your voice, body, voice, body, voice, body, doing both simultaneously all day. You're animating the body, you're animating the voice.
The soul is alive, coming through all the time.
All day.
So that's what's the Blackness in that for you, it seems. That's sort of.
Yes. That's the Black identity. We're not stopping the flow of energy between the voice and the body and the soul. It's like a triangle that's not stop. We're not stopping the current.
And that's the those need to be in alignment for you to be a conduit.
Yes. It's like sacred geometry. And so it's tapping into that channel. Now, I'll tell you another way I came to this was I was analyzing when, after the uprising, we went into decolonizing practices. I mean,
uprising.
Well, many of us, I know, the 2020 uprising. And decolonization is not new.
No.
But the terminology in the arts sector started being utilized because we started doing what we started decentralizing whiteness as the standard and Eurocentric fine arts as the standard in music, as the standard for what excellent art was after the uprising in 2020. Like, that's when we started putting the language out into the practice and into the profession. Even though we know this everywhere else, we started using it more. And I said, you know what? I want to get to a place where I'm not just decolonizing things. What if I just show up liberated? What if I am?
Right. Because this is, I have those reactions to things that, one of my first real pieces of the independent scholarship was autoethnographic. And in it, I was grappling with the notion of what is it that is me that is a reaction to others or systems versus what is it that is me that is me. That is my articulation of my expression of what it is that we're doing. If I'm constantly in reaction and in response to colonization, then I'm still colonized because that is what has my attention. But what does it look like to be unbothered and focused in the direction of where my life force is thrusting me toward? I love that so much, and particularly because of the ways that the arts can be so liberatory for all of us, where we find respite, where we find a shift in energy. It really matters that we uncouple ourselves from always being in juxtaposition with that oppressor, that domination.
Like, I have to name and make that a thing every time I show up. Malesha is a decolonized opera singer. I was like, first of all, you know what I'm saying? She's decolonizing the practice of opera. She's coming against white supremacy in opera. I'm like, or I show up and I sing and it sounds like opera, jazz, hip hop, all kinds of stuff because I'm Black. Because Black women, because that's my organic voice.
That is since the day you were born.
Since I was born, a voice teacher did not say, and now you will have opera in your voice. And somebody came to me, they were like, girl, did you know that your auntie used to sing opera in the gospel choir at church? She used to get up and be like, woo. And I was like, what? And I was like, I've never seen that before. And they're like, girl, you haven't been to a Black church. So then I go to my mom's old Baptist church in LA. And all these old ladies stood up and they said, woo.
You see how you're shaking your body a little bit too?
They was like, ooh. And I was like, so why is that That's singing with vibrato. That's singing with an operatic style. That's a Black woman that didn't go to school to study opera. It's just in her throat. It came out right out her throat.
It's who she is.
It just came out her throat. It's in my throat already. It was already in my throat.
Say it one more time.
It was in my throat to sing that way.
That's right.
I just put it in Italian and French and took a dictation class or whatever, but that didn't mean I didn't know how to do that until I saw this teacher. You know? So once I realized Black women sing all kinds of stuff, Patti LaBelle, Jill Scott, they sang opera. Everybody sings opera. I was like, so then we're not decolonizing nothing. We're just, this is my voice.
Singing. Yeah. We didn't come in. The colonization is that somebody said it was theirs when it wasn't theirs.
Yes. That.
Right. So do we constantly acknowledge the thief?
Exactly. And we spend too much energy. I am not spending my life force, energy, and time talking about somebody who did not really steal what was not, it was not theirs.
They could never steal. It's like someone saying they're going to steal your soul or steal your spirit. It's not available to you.
It was not available. Right. It's already in my throat. It's inside my body.
Okay.
But it took, I don't know how old was I when I realized that though.
Yes.
So, right. It's the realization, the aha of like, oh wait, this is mine.
It was never sit in your trajectory, because we talked about these phases of your life and you're coming into your leadership. If you look back, when did you say that was already in my throat and know it like 10 toes down? You didn't give me anything. We're not decolonizing anything.
That was deep in COVID pandemic. When we were all doing the dark night of the soul, life searching within, what is it? Turn within and reread that quote one more time and try to figure out why are we here? And that's when you're like, who am I? Why am I here? What is already here? What are my assets? What do I already have? And you like do that asset mapping of like, I'm not losing. I have something. There's something in me that's already here. What is it? And I started to realize the fullness of my voice and all its tones and heights and lows was just me. That was it was just me. And I just need to show up as myself.
Okay. So I'm feeling like I could talk to you. I think we've had these experiences before. I'm remembering that time you came to visit New York and I was like, yeah, let's go. Just keep chatting. But, or no, dinner. But any case, I need to stay focused so that we actually end in a reasonable time. You describe yourself on your website as a trained opera singer, Black woman, mother, capital M, now I get it, professor, arts administrator, and consultant working across arts disciplines.
Yes.
How does who you are inform your leadership praxis? What is your leadership praxis?
Yes. Wow, that's deep. Okay. So, my leadership praxis is bring your whole self to the space. So when I name all of those selves and identities, it's because I want everyone to see I'm showing up as all of these things when I show up. Sometimes people show up, like when I gave this talk at this conference in Chicago, I could have just said, I'm the founder of Muse Salon.
Yes.
And they would just say, she's a founder. She's an executive leader. She's a consultant. But unless I show up and say, I have 4 kids, I have this husband, I live over here, I do these things, I've done all these things. These are all the things that inform my voice right now. It's almost like calling in.
Yes.
It's like the call in. It's kind of like you show up with your ancestors and not just you. You show up with your whole, they're just like, I'm coming all, armed. I have a cloak around me and all of these things. I do not shame there's also a thing about shame for me. There were a lot of times when I went to job interviews and intentionally left out those parts of my identity in the interview. I don't need you to know I'm a mother. I'll tell you when I'm past probation. I'm not telling you I'm an artist. You'll think I'm less serious. I won't tell you I'm just a consultant because then you think I'm not creative. Right. And so you feel like all your identities box you and don't free you. Or are not interesting, or are in it, or they're going to inhibit you from opportunity. And so when you start to say, I'm not ashamed of every part of who I am, and all of these identifiers that sometimes we hide, especially as women, then we show up with more power to say, you can't take it away and you can't shame me. I'm not ashamed.
I'm making a connection between what you said, what your husband and you had talked about the soul in Africa, body and voice at the same time. And you see where I'm going? There's this way in which your leadership practice, and I would like for us to just kind of unpack it a little bit more and really get inside of it. Your leadership practice, the ideas or the works that you're talking about relative to Black liberatory praxis and the vocal arts are kind of showing up side by side right here. In that, even what you're saying in terms of showing up for a job. So I'm going to try to loop in something else here, which is how the Black woman and the Black body and Black labor is. Oh, I know. Let's just breathe it in for a second, right? But how it's positioned, how people put things onto it, and what liberation looks like in that space, and the ways in which you're living and working and leading are defiant of that type, of that type of externality, sort of pressing in and upon and oppressing. How do those words that I just, word saladed onto you right now, how do you hear them? What do you think about that? These ideas sort of in your space, because it's your labor, it's your art, it's your leadership, and it's all of who you are coming out through that voice in your throat.
Right. Yes. And so the question is,
what is the question?
The question is, yes, when with that image you gave me about women's labor, the thing that always eats me as a mother is the feeling in the history of Black women as mothers who mothered other children while leaving their children to be unmothered. Like, I had to leave my babies with a childcare worker or at home with the door locked to then go mother someone else's kids all day. And the person who's hiring me knows this. You know that I have milk in my body for another baby at home, and I'm going to feed your baby.
Stop.
You know it. And you know what? Let me show up and tell you, while you're talking to me, I am a mother. And while you hire me and tell me to take care of your kids, I want it real loud in your face that you know I have 5 kids at home. You know I have 5 kids at home. And you're going to think about it. And I want you, I'm not showing up to say I don't have children. And I'm not showing up to say I'm not an artist and I'm not a creative and I'm not all these things, that I don't have a soul. I'm not showing up to be a small robot for you. I'm showing up as a full tree with roots and flowers and blooms and seeds falling off of me. And this is who I am when you hire me. This is how magnificent I am when you hire me.
These things make me magnificent. One of the things that I think about in my work is how the abuses within the context of labor, extractive labor, and labor dynamics contemporarily always sort of come back to, the enslavement of Black people and Black women's particular experience of enslavement in terms of the labor and the labor of babies that are taken and made into capital for this
Yes.
system. And the shame that people feel around showing up as mother to work and not wanting to see what they're drawing you from. And what happens for people when they feel shame and don't name that they're a mother in the workplace, or when they don't want to show that they're pregnant because people are saying, I don't want to hire you because you're going to have to go take care of somebody else. And I'm told that I have to respect that now because of maternity and paternity and family leave. These things are so integrally connected. And for me, they always start to lay back on the labor of the Black body, particularly in this context. But I would say that there is a global impact of devaluing bodies and seeing particular bodies as labor to be extracted from lands, from peoples, from communities, from children.
And so it's the resistance, the rest resistance movement is showing up to say, I have babies. I'm not ashamed I have babies. I take care of my babies, and I might have an hour left at the end of the day for you. And that'll be $1,000. I'm centering myself first. My care, my body, my real labor is real. I have real humans I take care of. And for $1,000 for my 1 hour available, that's what you get. That's what you can. That's how much I cost. That's how much I cost. That's how much I'm worth.
You call it when you name it that way.
Because it's like you show up first with all your stuff and then say, I cost this now. Instead of the other way around. Like, I don't want to self-diminish when I show up at the door. I don't want to be the author of my own diminishment. Right.
I understand that. I do. I was thinking of, I don't like a cost being associated with you or any of us humanly. So that was my like,
no, but you know what I mean.
I know, I do. But that's why I was like,
I made up a number.
Mean that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But also that's how much what I have to share with you cost.
Yes.
Like, you can't have me because, like you, this, you can't have, I'm not. And I know that reaction is coming. I'm accounted for, and it's ancestral for me of like resisting that. So I understand where that's coming from, but I get it. It's interesting. We've been talking about this interrelation, and I wonder, for this audience, it could be interesting to engage a little bit of cognitive play around what would or does or could your leadership look like, your leadership praxis look like without that Black liberatory thrust. Can you even imagine it?
No, not after. Once it's been written and known, it's like once you know it yourself, you show up. You just, I know who I am now, so I can't not know. And that's kind of what 40 does. 40 is the like, I now know, so I can't
so much. 40 has Andre 3000 out here with this flute, and I love every bit of it. I love every bit of it because it's what I got. It's what's coming out right now. You like it. I love it. You don't like it. I don't care. This is what it is. Right. Yes. I love it. So it's radical.
It's showing, it's full. And so the curriculum, so I wrote this curriculum called E.L.E.V.A.T.E that I'm doing now. So speaking to what I'm doing now, I wrote this framework called the 8 Guiding Principles to BIPOC Leadership. And it's evolving because it's either BIPOC leaders in the arts, BIPOC leaders in nonprofit, but I'm like, it might even be all people, because almost everything on here is just deeply rooted in soul, body, and showing up in your full self of who you are in space as a professional. And if I were not Black and talking about liberatory praxis, I don't know that I could write that curriculum. Absolutely. Just being on the intersection of woman and Black and mother and artist is like, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the intersection. And there were so many years when I was not. So many years when I was ashamed to have any of those intersections.
I want to talk more about Elevate. You know, because that's what happens. You talked about threshold of 40, which it's like the funnest time I've ever had, not giving a you know what. It's glorious.
Yes.
And you know, you hone your skills, you know, you got your talent, and then it's time to show people how to do this thing, because they're just like, how does she do it? Tell me a little bit about like how you came to realize that it was time to not only be in the practice of doing it in your work, but actually sharing it with others so that they might also create these spaces that are elevated, that are liberatory in their own particular context. You've named a few of them, but we're also appreciating that it doesn't even have to be any of these particular industries, that it is a necessity for all of us who are trying to access liberation by living truly in our own soul space.
Yes. How did I come to Elevate? So I'm on an amazing contract right now. I'm doing I'm a part of a 3-year initiative that is led by Ford Foundation. Ford Foundation did a major fund to BIPOC led and serving arts organizations in 2020.
Okay.
And they led it with a bunch of other funders, Mellon Foundation, MacArthur. They all pooled a bunch of money together and said, we're going to pour into BIPOC leaders in the arts all over the US. And I am in the Southern region with the Southern Cultural Treasures. And there's 17 organizations, legacy organizations there. B.B. King Museum, Otis Redding Foundation, True Colors Theater, Black theaters, Black dance companies, Latino, Latinx theater in Miami, Native American groups, all kinds of beautiful. And in that cohort, I'm leading professional development and capacity building. And we started to question, what does it mean to have capacity or no capacity? How did philanthropy decide that BIPOC leaders need training? How did they decide that, we'll give you this money, but you've got to really get your skills together? And we're not, the reason you've never been funded in the past may be because of your lack of education, maybe because of your lack of skills. Maybe you need to have someone work with you on some basic skills. And I said, you know what? Yeah, we're going to work on basic skills, but we're going to ground them in energy, and not just about money, but the principle of energy. L, which stands for legacy, which is knowing our value, knowing our origin stories and who we are. The other E is ecosystem. That means tending a garden and being master gardeners of our organizations and of who we are, knowing about food and seed systems, seasons, time, wind, air. The 4 elements is another one of the guiding principles. So what is fire, air, earth, and water? And are those elements in a part of your leadership? We look at V, which is village. Are you village building? Do you see your work as a village? What does it mean to have family? How do you see your board as a village, your stakeholders as a village, your artist community as a village, the people in your life? Do you see family? Do you see yourself in connection and community? And then T, which is about thinking globally and not just thinking locally. How do you see yourself international? How do you see our diaspora across the globe, and not just in Southside Chicago, not just in Atlanta, but in Tanzania and Jamaica and all parts of what is the diaspora? How are we all responding to being colonized? How is the whole planet responding to colonization right now? And so that's the wheel. So those are the 8 principles. And they spell out the word elevate. And it just came to me in a vision. And I wrote it. And I wrote it down.
It came to you in a vision.
It came to me in a vision.
You are so deeply spiritual.
Thank you. Yes.
You are.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a trip. I saw a branding coach and he took me through 3 days of exercises to say, you're a spiritual person.
You're like, well, I knew that when we got started. Um,
He's like, you need
there's
to do
something
spiritual stuff.
well,
Mhm,
you are. You
mhm.
from your first breath,
Yes.
right? Yes. Um, hmm What's it been like for you to integrate spirit into practice and in your work?
It's getting better now because we have more language for what spirit is, and
Hmm.
we're not using, it's not always Jesus and God. And it's not
Hmm.
always, it can be Ashe, and it can just be Wusa, and it can just be yoga and prana,
Hmm.
and it can be breath, and it can be wind and
Hmm.
air. And none of those things diminish another.
Hmm.
That can use all those words interchangeably. And people are like, yes, yes.
Hmm.
Right. When if
Hmm.
I open if I facilitate a talk and I tell everyone to breathe, they know what that means now. It's not like, oh my God, who is this hippie? Like, let's settle into the body. Let's do grounding.
Hmm.
Grounding is a thing. I love that stuff. I think people respond
Hmm.
more. I like
Hmm.
seeing, like, my workshop that I led, people cried. I think it's deep if people cry in professional development.
Mm.
I would rather have people cry than
Mhm.
have people fill out a survey and say, yes, I learned a lot.
Mm. You want them to be moved.
I want you to be moved in your core.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's about transformation. I think everything is about transformation,
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
evolution, move, like progress. That's how we evolve.
And how are organizations in engaging? How are they? Okay, here's my question. I'll tell you the question underneath the question, which is that there is a lot of focus on the capitalization of DEI and Jedi work, right? It's been commodified. And when people ask you to come, do they know what they've asked for? Because you're talking and you engage a work that's deeply spiritual and integral, transformative from the inside out. What is your experience of this work, working with these folks who are, attempting to create and redesign their ecosystems? Are they actually able to access that? Did they know what they were asking for when they asked for you? Sometimes they're just looking for they're like, oh, she did this work with the Ford Foundation, so we should get her. Right. Because
Right.
they want to get the next thing. It's a commodification of this thing to show that we are this because we hired her, not we are this because we went through this process together. Right.
Right.
What's your experience of doing this work with them?
I mean,
I have all easy questions, Malesha.
right.
You're
I
right.
I find right now a lot of people are doing the whatever works for BIPOC people, just what works for them is great. As long as they said they love it, they love it.
You
We've
see how your
checked the
voice
box.
changed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So you're deeply embodied. So you're speaking to a certain type of energy around an angst around just not wanting to upset anybody and get canceled from folks of color or decolonized capacity, stuff online. Just don't tell people that we did something wrong.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So that
Is
doesn't feel
that
really liberatory to me.
there's that. It's so I'm often in between. I'm
Okay.
in between the person I just turned into, but I'm
Okay.
serving,
Because you did transform, but you're observing.
but I am actually serving the BIPOC leader in the space. I'm
I
only
see.
serving BIPOC leaders.
So
I'm
when you go into these spaces, a BIPOC leader must be there.
I work with BIPOC leaders only with this framework. But the
Mm.
person who's hiring me is not. The person who's
Mm.
hiring me is hiring me because I know I have built a curriculum that is not
Mm.
led by them, that they
Mhm.
brought an outside consultant to provide and speak to us,
Mhm.
for us,
Mm.
by us. It's
Mhm.
and I take us on our own journey to
Mm.
to find our assets, to find our worth, to find our work.
Mm.
And I'm often hired as a consultant to do additional support, technical assistance based on the E.L.E.V.A.T.E framework. So the E.L.E.V.A.T.E framework is more of an assessment tool that we dive into and we assess and we look at and we map areas that we want to work on. And after we go through that process, we say, okay, Malesha, can you, it looks like our CRMs are not in sync, and that ties into ecosystems. We want to work on our financial systems. Our software isn't integrated. How can you help with that? And then I say, great, I'm going to assign you a consultant that'll come in to help you with software integration. But the way that we talked about software integration was talking about gardening. Because that's a relatable physical metaphor for what that is actually doing. What is the CRM? The CRM is like your irrigation system. The CRM is like
not working.
Right. You saying that you want to grow collard greens in the backyard means, did you get the right irrigation set up, and did you get your soil prepared? Did you find the right position to get the light so that the kale or the greens will grow? Did you clear out the area around it so that you're not getting insects and pests and other stuff to interfere with your crop? And that's how I talk to us. I talk to us in ways we understand. And then the metaphor illuminates, girl, that's what I need. I need to get my computers on working right, my operations. I need a project manager. And I'm like, yes, you need a project manager. You need project management software. You need to be using Monday.com. Okay, so you need to set this up and integrate it with MailChimp. You need to get Zapier set up because it integrates all three. That's what your irrigation system is to get what your result is, which is the greens and the kale. You can't get greens, you can't get funding when you don't have a good CRM. People need to send money to you. What are your systems in place to receive it? And so E.L.E.V.A.T.E is made to take all of these aspects of your organization into more layman terms that we understand, terms a part of our culture and our way of being, that we can access easier. And it's not taught to us in this mechanical, like, oh my God, now I have to go to Zapier training. It's like nobody wants to sit through that.
It's not dismembered.
It's not dismembered.
Yeah, I'm studying you right now. It's not dismembered. It's integrated. It's of yourself. It's of your own. And I want to say something to you, Malesha, and I'm sure people have told you this before, but you have such a regal countenance. There's so much dignity attached to the ways in which you're talking about your work and the ways in which you're holding. I'm imagining for leaders whom you work with, those who are BIPOC leaders in particular, who don't necessarily get to experience such deep regard for themselves all the time, or integrity for their work and their offering all the time. How important it is to model that to them too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because a lot of these issues are quiet in the back of the head. Shame. We don't even want to talk about why we couldn't figure out our email or why we can't figure out the software. We just must
be with us.
I already know why this email is not working, and I'll figure it out eventually. And it's like, just say, I need help with this email. It's not working. I can't download this. I'm not figuring the software out. I'm having struggles. It's hard to just be vulnerable and say, I need help in these areas. And that when I talk through the framework, people cry because it's like, ooh, that's what I need. But because you said it to me in this way, it didn't feel as abrasive. I didn't feel ashamed. I can show up and I know how to articulate what I need now. And that's the goal. And the most important letter I forgot was ancestors and archives, which is another A. Ancestors and accessibility and archiving. Ancestry and archives knowing who we were,
Mm.
and who we have become, and then
Mm.
valuing enough to digitize and archive it and write it down.
Mm. My sense is that particularly within the artist community and folks who are learning what you valued from, I would say, being warned against being out here without knowing how to have your own ecosystem as an
Mm-hmm.
artist. Because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's what this question, like, what is your backup plan, your plan B? My plan B is to be his business. I'll do that and I'll steal.
Right.
But who did not have that initially, but are find themselves in a role of leadership and are seeking your support and your help and are grateful for you to be there. Likely experience a little bit of imposter syndrome around the administrative aspects of the work,
Mm-hmm.
because they're told to shut up and just be the talent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't want to. You see, and I feel like there's something very liberating and grounding people in the know-how of the mundane that actually makes it possible for you. You know, the irrigation system, the metaphor is
Yes.
is wonderful, because then it's like, I know what I got.
Yes. And
I know what I got. Go ahead.
but we have to sit with it sometimes. We have to remember. And I started my workshop off talking about remembering. It's like we fall apart a lot. Things fall apart, and we gotta like recalibrate, put it all back, put the pieces back, put your heart back in spot, in place, put your head back on. Who am I? Who were my ancestors? Who got me here? Who are my mentors? Who are my people? Where did I go to school? What did I study? Like, even just reading your bio in the morning is like an awakening. Just looking at your resume is like, oh, that's right. Last year, I forgot I did that. I literally forget. I do.
Me too.
I mean, I'll be like, girl, did I do that last? I can't believe I did that. That is so cool. And it's like, if you could give yourself an award every day for like what you did last week. And just that is a lot because then you can show up differently. You show up differently when you write it down and you say, I did these things. This is who I am.
This is who I am. E.L.E.V.A. So, okay. So we have to move on. We could go on, but I really could. One of the things that is so critical and what I've been excited to see are folks who are across the lifespan, age span, career trajectory span, but the what they're garnering, what they're receiving from this podcast and hearing Black women talk about their leadership practices, literally like the innards of it. And today we did it, right? Like today we're getting inside of your story and your journey and your revelation of who you are. And that's so vital. Particularly looking back, because young ones can say, oh, that resonates. You mean that counts? And it's like, yes, it does count. So if you were to speak to your younger self, or mentees, I am assuming that you have some following you around trying to get those wisdom seeds. What advice or words of wisdom would you impart to them about their own leadership journey? And, this also, Malesha, could be people who are endeavoring to raise and be a positive force and influence in the life of young Black women, girls, or those who are reporting to them now as women because a lot of people are trying to figure out how to do it and they just don't know what to do. So with that out there, what would your advice be for those who are trying to have that impact?
Yes. I've heard this so many times, but I feel it now more. It's the fall in love with yourself. The fall in love with yourself that we talk about a lot. That Black women, we talk about this all the time. Self-love. But it's kind of like when you cook something and you're like, girl, that was good. I put these spices.
I get on my people's nerves. I'm like, that's good. They're like, what you make? I'm like, well, listen, I don't even
Right.
know what we call it this, but it is delicious.
I'm in love with myself. I put this
Mhm.
curry from this specific market that I went to. I put this bay leaf because I
Mhm.
love bay leaves. I put 4 of them instead of 1. And loving yourself. Like, I love that about me. I
Mhm.
love the recipe of me.
Mm. So, because, and the distinction that you would draw between that and being conceited or full of yourself or ego driven, because I think that it's important. We have a social media society. I'm going to likely post this particular clip on Instagram.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
But we have a social media society where folks are like, absorbed with themselves in ways that are not healthy. The psychological research shows us that it's actually deeply problematic for their mental health. What's the difference between falling in love with the recipe of yourself, all your parts, and being full of yourself, and maybe a more superficial presentation of that?
It's it's like mixology, it's cooking, it's culinary, it's flavor, vibe, essence. It's like all these spices, bitters, broken parts, pieces of a half, fat back, whatever is inside. I don't care what that thing was. I like it. And because you have to say, I like this. I also have this belief in non-regret. I don't believe in regret because I see it as another ingredient. This rough marriage, I went through a terrible, you knew the man that I married. You met him and you gave him words. You said, what did you say? You said you married Malesha. Said what? And you said that to him.
I did say that.
You leaned all the way into my ex-husband at your house and you looked him right. Oh, you looked at him and you said, what did you say you're going to do? Okay, so you're marrying Malesha. Uh-huh. I've written it down. That's my
You've written it down.
ex-husband. You wrote it down.
You
You
wrote it.
looked at
Oh,
you
I wrote
gave him the
yeah.
look. You gave him a whole look. And I said, I'm listening to you. And I'm writing it down. You made an account. Listen, it was good. You said I'm making an account. Right? Yeah, I said I'm making an account. I heard your words and I see you. And that is the father of my children. Do I regret that I married him? No. Do I regret the pain I went through? No. It's a part of the recipe of the fire of me.
That's right.
It's a part of the dark of me. It's that dark essence. It's the back. It's the back. It's the backside. It's the shadow. It's whatever you want to call it. It's that dark spice in the middle of a really good drink. Whatever that, you need all the palate.
It's a pot liquor. It's the grease and the roux at the bottom that makes that soup so good.
It's
I
that
can
thing.
tell you like to cook, and it's that feeling.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, this is so rich. I didn't know I said that, but it sounds like me.
You made an account. You were like, I'm gonna lean in and make it. Yes. What are you doing? And so I think Black women, we just sometimes analyze and chop up some of the stuff that we go through and have been through and have happened to us. And we condemn, we hurt, and the hurt is real. And then I think we need to love on it. We need to love it in. We need to love it in. That's me. That's my Torah behind right there. And I love my Torah behind. I love it.
My Torah, which is different than the airbrush and the filter and the this and the that.
Right.
And that's what I'm hearing you saying is that distinction.
Yes.
Last question
Mm-hmm.
before I let you go,
Mm-hmm.
or we end this interview. What are you up to? Because you are a creator, you're an artist, you're a human. What are you up to? What are you manifesting that you feel comfortable sharing? What should people be looking out to hear from you? This will likely air in this sometime in the spring.
Mm.
So if that helps you to time what you would say, spring 2024. What's going on with you?
Wow.
Mm,
So I've connected with some musicians that are loosely tied to NAP ministry, and it's almost like a
ooh,
DL undercover. And we're creating sound healing experiences,
mm,
harp and voice, and
mm,
text and words and meditation. So I'm
mhm,
dipping more into that. I've done a little bit of that,
mhm,
and I'm doing more rest and restorative music and healing music. And I
mhm.
have a concert coming up with these harpists, so I'm looking forward to, by spring we'll probably have more. And
Oh.
mm-hmm,
Mhm,
um, and that is, I what
mm,
else is in the vision? I
mm,
want to tour Elevate. I want to help more organizations with Elevate.
mhm,
So I anticipate doing more work in
mm,
and for us, continuing to teach us what it means to be in liberatory praxis and leadership, as BIPOC folk. And
mhm.
I have 4 kids, so I am gonna have teenagers next year. So I
Oh
will
my
be in a,
God.
I know, I will be in a deep new phase of motherhood, of the
Yes, you
teen,
will.
of the teen world. So that,
Mhm, mm. Okay.
yes. Mm,
Malesha, this has been such a joy. I have to say, we've had many conversations over the years. We've never had this kind of conversation, and certainly being in this at this big age that I love so much because of the clarity and the honesty and the oh, you said stir it in or cook it in, the
yes,
marination, like the things that have come
yes,
together makes it so much more joyous and brilliant and fulfilling. Thank you so much for sharing so openly
yes.
with our audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this platform. It's beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.